So just want to apologize in advance if I don't have any videos upcoming soon. I have a couple ready, but they won't go live for a few more days. This is the 4-liter single overhead cam out of my 99 Mercury Mountaineer that I paid $700 for. It runs good as it stands right now, but I've got the engine out of the vehicle, and I'm going to be changing all the timing components, tensioners, chain guides, just because I'm going to be taking this thing on a possible 10,000 mile trip coming up. I don't want a timing chain issue because these things are notorious for timing chain failures. Anyhow, just wanted to give you a little heads up just in case you don't see videos on electronics repairs. Well, it's Tuesday, March 22nd, and with any luck, in a day or two, all this will be out of here. The engine will be on the engine stand, ready for timing components. We'll see what happens. Well, here we are, sitting in the engine compartment right now. Had to pull all the electrical off the engine and the lower intake assembly off. Got my paper towel stuffed down in the intake port so nothing falls down in there, and I can actually get to the holy grail of bolts. That bolt right there, the upper bell housing bolt. And then there's another one hiding underneath that trans vent tube. And in that support, there's another bolt I've got to get to. So the whole reason I'm doing this is so that I can replace the driver's side timing chain, which lives on the front of the engine. That one's really easy to do. But on these 4-liter single overhead cams, there's a jack shaft that runs all the way through the engine. And then the passenger side is actually on the rear of the engine. And the only way to change the timing chain, the guides, and the tensioners is to actually pull the engine out of the unit. You cannot gain access to this thing unless the transmission is separated from the engine. So once again, just a little more work that I had anticipated, but it is coming along quite nicely. Got the hood off so I can actually gain some access in the back quite easily. So hopefully, once again, here we are, a couple more hours, and this thing will be out of here. Well, I got the valve covers off, and I've got to say I'm pretty happy with the cleanliness of the engine internals. I'm not seeing any cam wear whatsoever. The lobes look excellent. All the rollers are rolling as they should. And I was expecting to see a broken chain tensioner back here on the passenger side timing chain, but it looks absolutely perfect. Over here to the driver's side, it looks good as well. I'm hoping not wasting my time, but everything looks pretty good. Now this is the PCV side of the engine, so it is expected to have a little more gunk, but all the cam lobes look excellent. Pretty happy with the internals, like I said, for an engine with 160 plus thousand miles on it. Very clean inside. Well, I've got to say I was expecting a lot more carnage than this. Nothing. This thing is mint. Now I'm starting to wonder if I should just go ahead and put it back together and throw it back in. I mean, this thing is clean. Pistons are clean down there. This thing's been very well maintained for 160 plus thousand miles. Not even a lot of oil varnish. Rod caps basically look like they came off the assembly line yesterday. Yeah, I'm starting to question, it's just a big waste of time. Did order a couple of new torque to yield bolts for the jack shaft. And then I do have a brand new milling timing set with all the tensioners, guides, new chains, new sprockets you can see down in there, new oil pressure tube, new tensioners. So yeah, well, I guess I'm this far into it, so probably going to be a couple more hours to basically pull this thing all the way apart and replace all the timing chains with all brand new components. So I'm here, you know, basically when in Rome. And I did have to go ahead and get the timing alignment kit. These camshafts have no alignment marks on them, so you actually have to put this on the harmonic balancer, put this end right here against the block. These go on the backs of the camshafts, and with this, it actually bolts up to the top of the cylinder head to make sure the timing, to make sure the camshafts are in alignment. And it has this is a pre-tensioner. You screw that in there, and it pre-tensions everything. This locks the gear in place while you're adjusting it. But like I said, when in Rome, I guess let's go ahead and see this thing to the end. Why not? Even pulled out the plugs, see what kind of shape they're in. They're original Motorcraft Platinums. They look pretty doggone good. Except for that one. Definitely seen better days. I think that's supposed to be connected. I'm not quite sure though. But they've been running good. Nice white porcelain. So yeah. Guess we'll see this thing to the end after all. Why not? Well, I'm about halfway through getting this thing put back together. All new timing chains, gears, had to reuse the old jack shaft gear because it doesn't come with the new one. New tensioners, new rear, got the new one in down there too. Everything's good, just got to align it. Everything's loose at this point. But all of a sudden, the sky opened up. Look at this. Oh, what a beautiful day of liquid sunshine coming on down. We certainly need it here in Northern California. Beautiful day of liquid sunshine. Flag is a-waving. Look at that. What a glorious sight. Dog was barking a minute ago because of thunder. Oh, look at that. Gotta love the liquid sunshine coming on down. Must just have a big cloud coming right over us right now. Well, I'm glad I didn't decide to work in the backyard. So I'm kind of protected in here, in the garage right now. Okay, all new chains, guides, tensioners installed. And I did go ahead and add some paint marks once I torqued these to spec. You can see the bolts down in there. That one back in there is torqued to spec. Now these are like 189 inch-pounds and these are like 90 inch-pounds. And these down here, might be kind of hard to see, are torqued to spec. This one is 33 foot-pounds plus 90 degrees. And then this one back here is 15 foot-pounds plus 90 degrees. These are 65 foot-pounds on the cam chains themselves. They've been all torqued to spec. Ready to go. Had the pre-tensioners in here when I torqued them. And everything looks absolutely perfect at this point. So I'm actually just waiting on some parts to show up because I need to get a new rear seal. They call it the cam plug seal right here that drives in here. I'll put a bit of RTV around it just like I did on this one. And on this one, new O-rings on those. RTV just to make sure they don't leak. I'm using Permatex Ultra Blue. I've had excellent success with that. And once those things arrive, we'll go ahead and get the front timing cover on here. I got a brand new water pump coming, a brand new starter, not a rebuilt, a brand new one. So this thing should be ready to go back in the vehicle in the next couple of days. So here's the new oil pan gasket. And it's got these little tabs that they want you to push down between the main cap and the block. And so I actually had to pull the rear main bearing out. Let's take a look at it real quick. So there's one side. I got to go ahead and dig that crud out of there. Then there's the other side. You can see the plastic is like still stuck up in there. But now we actually take a look at the main crank bearing. And it's not in too terribly bad a shape. I'm going to say this is okay for 160,000+ miles on it. Let's go ahead and take a look at the main crank journal as well. Well, I've certainly seen worse. Really no scoring to talk of. I can't catch anything with my fingernail, so it's very smooth. So just go ahead and clean all that crud out of there, retorque it, and the new rear main seal goes in here. I already have the old one pulled out. And then we can begin reassembling the bottom half of this engine. Well, what do you think, Rosie girl? She's not interested. She's just resting. But I think it's starting to look like an engine again. Valve covers are back on, front timing cover back on, torqued to spec, brand spanking new water pump on here. There is a front crank seal on here as well. Brand new, and both oil pans are back on. Everything's torqued to spec, including the girdle is torqued back to spec. It's got a brand new rear oil seal. And I'm waiting for Whitmire to get me some brand new torque to yield flex plate bolts. They're on their way. Brand new cam plug. And I did go ahead and dump about a quart of oil, and I used the just cheap 5W30 over all the new timing chains to get them lubricated. I did run the engine around a couple of times by hand. No interference whatsoever. And as far as I can tell, the cams are perfectly timed on this thing. So, any luck on my next 4-day break, this thing's going back in the vehicle. Well, I got the new torque to yield bolts between the crankshaft and the flex plate. And so this mark is my 90-degree reference, and then every bolt is 37 foot-pounds plus 90 degrees past that. And just getting ready to put this thing back in. Got it hanging here on the hoist right now. So I did have to improvise for one of the cable straps here. So 1/4 and a zip tie pushed into that hole because it has to hold the cable here for the oil level sensor right down here. And then it holds the cables for the starter that actually mounts right there. Everything else is on, ready to go. I'm going to leave the engine mounts off until I get this thing situated. Make it easier to line up the dowel pins and get it mated to the bell housing. But check this out. So I opted to go ahead and get a brand spanking new starter, and it says, do not remove this lead. Crimp and heat shrink to the existing lead. But I think I'm going to remove it, and I'll show you why. So I've got it zoomed in quite a bit right there, but that piece of heat shrink is actually touching the lead that goes to the armature in the starter. So if that heat shrink rubs through and you go to start this, it's going to be locked on because the armature is going to keep that solenoid pulled in. So yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to remove this. I don't really care what they say. I'll take necessary precautions to make sure it's not twisted as I remove it. But yeah, brand new starter, cheap. And this thing says made in Malaysia, but yeah, brand new starter. Yeah, I'm going to use the original bolt. Well, I seem to have a couple leftover parts. They're probably not very important. Some kind of a bracket thingamajig. And not quite sure where all this stuff really goes, so I'm just going to leave it loose. I'm sure it'll be fine. Nothing needs to happen down here. Yeah, that's going to be fine. Not even worried about it whatsoever. I do have the important stuff connected. This, I don't know. It kind of just lives right there. It'll be okay. And then all this stuff over here, just, yeah, it's all good. No problems whatsoever here. Well, let's stop that dinger. So, let's go ahead and power this thing on. I got the normal lights, no problem. I'm going to use the clear flood mode by opening the throttle wide open. And hopefully we will see some oil pressure over here. Nothing yet. It is trying to start. Well, let's just see if it'll start. There we go. We got oil pressure. Oh, sounds totally perfect. All right, there we go. Let's shut it off. We've got no coolant in here whatsoever. Well, so far so good. Had it out and about, 14.2 miles so far, and no issues, no check engine lights, running absolutely perfect. Oh look, the backflow guys here doing our backflow prevention device. Gone to Costco and the grocery store, running absolutely perfect, no check engine lights. Everything's good. Got the AC on there. Little condensation. Did go ahead and throw all the new hoses and belt on there and the new fan clutch down there. And according to that one, I've driven 12.6, but according to this one, when I reconnected the battery, 14.3 miles so far. Running perfect. No lights, no issues. Well, 182.2 miles later, and we got no issues whatsoever. No lights, no anything. I'm trying to run out all the gas because it's getting a brand new Delphi fuel pump coming up here in the next week or two when it shows up from Rock Auto. And new U-joints, new brake pads all the way around. Got some hood struts on order. So, yeah, and get this thing back on the road and take a nice trip. Anyhow, there you go. 182.2 so far. Working perfect.